Hello, I'm the 10-minute English teacher. Let's get you exam ready. Today we're thinking about A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and I'm going to provide you with summary and analysis for Stave 5. Before we get going, don't forget to like and subscribe. There are plenty of things on the channel to help get you exam ready for both English language and English literature. Okay, Stave 5. In front of you now are 8 key images. Each one of those corresponds to a significant moment that takes place in Stave 5. By the end of our time together, you're going to be able to recall exactly what happens in the final chapter of the novella. And it begins with Scrooge waking up. He awakens as a changed man, having been given the chance to live an improved life. And it's a bright day, providing a direct contrast to Stave 1 to signify Scrooge's redemption. And then he comes up with a great idea, and he speaks from the window to a child and sets him on a task to earn him some pocket money to go and buy the biggest turkey in the poulterer's shop in the next street but one. When it arrives, he plans to send it secretly to the Cratchits who live in Camden Town nearby. Scrooge then sees the charity collectors again. An excited Scrooge readies himself and then leaves the house. He's on his way to see Fred, but then he sees the charity collectors on his way there. And he apologises to them and then makes them the promise of a substantial donation. Scrooge then goes to Fred's house and joins the party. He arrives at Fred's and asks if he may join after all. He's welcomed in, and cleverly, Dickens doesn't need to describe the events as we witnessed them in Stave 3 when he was taken there by the ghost of Christmas present. And then the next day, Scrooge tricks Bob. In another callback to previous events, Scrooge waits by the clock the next morning, having told Bob to be early. Bob arrives at 18 minutes past 9 and apologises, and Scrooge pretends to be livid and makes Bob fear that he's about to be sacked until he mentions raising his salary instead. And then the novella ends with Scrooge and Bob together. Scrooge promises to help Bob's struggling family and raise his salary, and apologises for not having been better to him over the years. Scrooge tells Bob that they'll discuss his affairs over a Christmas bowl of a drink called Smoking Bishop, and demands that the fires be made up. And then you've got a very short denouement at the end of the novella and at the end of the chapter. So with all the issues of the novel, or the novella, short novel, resolved, Dickens provides 2 paragraphs to confirm that Scrooge lived up to his word to live a changed life. He became a second father to Tiny Tim and was a good master to Bob, and lived a life filled with laughter. So there are those 8 key images. To take it further, you might want to write a sentence or 2 about those now before we move on. And if you are ready to move on, let's think about quotes to know. Okay, quotes to know. So this chapter is all about the change in Scrooge, and there are some great quotes to know that contrast the descriptions of Scrooge and of the setting in the beginning of the novella. So we've got golden sunlight, heavenly skies, sweet fresh air, and merry bells. And the idea of golden sunlight and heavenly skies is alluding to the idea that Scrooge has changed his afterlife and won't be suffering those same consequences that Jacob Marley was suffering in his. We've got Scrooge as happy as an angel, another allusion to heaven. He feels as light as a feather, which is another simile that's got an allusion to heaven. If you think about angels and feathers and wings and all that sort of thing, redemption being alluded to there. And Scrooge says, I'm quite a baby, which suggests that he's almost been reborn. He's been given that chance of a second life. To take it further, there are those key quotations with some of those images and ideas censored out for you. Can you recall them yourselves and fill in the gaps? And if you can't, you can use the play bar to slide back and find out the answers. Okay, now it's time for analysis. So the form and structure of the novella is really significant. The messages of the 3 spirits change Scrooge, and all in one night. Dickens chose to write a short 5-chapter novella, and he published this with his own money in order to reach as many as possible with what he called his ghost of an idea. The change in his character takes place in one night rather than over the course of many years, as was the case in the stories Dickens was famous for. If you think about something like Great Expectations, the changes that happen to Pip, his main character in that novel, take place over many years. In this one, everything takes place in a day and a night. Dickens presents us with the idea that huge social change, and the idea that society can completely change instantly, as the change in Scrooge does. All the reader has to do is change their attitude to the poor. And we've got that significant binary opposition in the novel again, darkness versus light. Scrooge faces suffering in the afterlife unless he finds redemption, and this idea in the narrative is symbolised in the opposition of darkness and light. The symbolism of light and darkness is also prevalent in Stave 5, right at the end. The day is bright and filled with sunshine, which symbolises the happiness that being charitable will bring you, but it also symbolises Scrooge's redemption. He has been saved. He's averted the suffering in the afterlife that he faced. Okay, check out the other videos on my channel. I'll continue to add content. Feel free to ask for something you'd like to see me cover in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe and share, and keep revising.